Welcome to The State of Us.
Beyond mainstream cable news and party lines, with a millennial and a boomer, The State of Us pushes past the noise and uncovers all the issues that matter.
Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
We will never buy the same again. The pandemic accelerated our acceptance of everything from curbside pickup to virtual fitting rooms. If you can get your friendly redneck liberal to purchase groceries virtually, you know times are a-changing. The question is, which of these, though, are going to last? And when we talk about we'll never buy the same again, it's interesting, too, to think about how tech's triopoly, Google, Facebook, and Amazon, now collect more than half. Yes, you heard right. More than 50% of all ad dollars, every advertising dollar spent in the U.S., over half, goes to Google, Facebook, or Amazon. And the pandemic helped them arrive in this position. There's a lot to cover today, but of course, a conversation on technology and the future of shopping habits simply wouldn't be complete without
TrueChat senior historian and an educator of more than 30 years. Here is your friendly redneck liberal, Lance Jackson.
Yeah, well, just to be transparent, it was my wife who ordered the stuff online, and I just went and picked them up. I did not actually place the order, did not learn the technology, and am totally frustrated by it, and I'm so glad that I'm gradually getting back into the store to do my shopping, because getting better produce, getting better prices, and gee, lo and behold, technology is so great. The store actually has stuff that the app says they don't have. So I can actually get the things that I want because they are in the store. But if I try to purchase it online, it's not there. Except then if I want technology, then the technology store says they have it on the app and you go in the store and it's not there. So it is a real conundrum for trying to buy things in today's society.
Is that our word of the day?
Conundrum? It can be.
It can be. Well, you got your handy dandy advanced technology all in one dictionary right in front of you. So I didn't know. I mean, maybe there's a different word of the day, but I figured that sounded like a conundrum.
I just that's a regular vocabulary word for me.
Okay. Well, do we have an advanced vocabulary word? We haven't had it. I don't think we've had an advanced vocabulary word recently.
No, we haven't, because I've just had some basic feelings that I was dealing with. Okay. So the basic words just kind of worked out here. But yeah, conundrum, CONUNDRUM. I like the way they break it up here by syllable. Then you have a nun, NUN, and then you get to pound on the drum. Nun, drum. As a noun, it's a slang for pedant, whim, etc. A riddle whose answer contains a pun, or any puzzling question or a problem. And a synonym is a mystery. So, and I love mysteries. So that's the conundrum here, is that I never really bought online. My wife did all of that. She learned the apps and everything. And
so you benefited from it.
I was just transportation.
One of the things you and I have covered over the years that Amazon and all online shopping organizations have struggled with is the expense of shipping. And we know that the vast majority of the shipping cost comes from the, quote, last mile, right? Mm-hmm. We made it to the place that it's loaded on the truck to go to your house. That portion of the trip is the most expensive. And I think the fascinating thing about curbside is they are figuring out how to balance something that, as humans, I think we all suffer from. A desire for the thing immediately, right? Mm-hmm. And all the boomers out there, right? They all get on the millennials for that instant gratification society. We used to have to wait for things, but they're also the ones that like to walk into the store so they can buy the thing and then go home, right? Because by God, I got to have it right now. But curbside is this weird balance between the companies have figured out it's a lot cheaper if we can convince them right? You've become Amazon.
The delivery person. Yeah.
Yeah. You just drive to the store, right? You don't have to go in.
Right.
We're going to give you the convenience, right? Convenience, that leaving out the part that you have to drive to the store, right? But yeah, all you got to do is pull up to the store.
We'll shop for you, and all you have to do is sit here and get a hold of us, and then wait 10 or 15 minutes until we finally get your order, and then we'll give you half of what we said you ordered because, we didn't have it, but we didn't bother to tell you that until after you drove in to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's real convenient because now the
Now you
dinner,
have to make another
the dinner
trip.
that I was going to have tonight, I can't have because half of the ingredients weren't in the store, or so you said. But when I put it in park and I walk into the store, guess what? Those ingredients that you said you didn't have, I have. Or when you substitute cucumber for my celery. Okay, they both start as a substitution. So now I have
they're
to
green. And
they both start with the letter C.
And they're in the produce section. So.
So, then of course you have to stop. You have to hit the no substitution rule.
Yes.
Because somebody in their infinite wisdom gives you a cucumber instead of a stalk of celery.
Well, and in fairness to the app, right, you can add notes in the substitution line.
And we've had to, right? And then it's amazing when it gets substituted anyway. Like they substituted one time 6-ounce drinks for 2-liter bottles.
Yes.
And they said, well, we charged you the same price. And I'm like, and you gave me 1/3 of the volume. And they go, what? I'm like, those don't add up to a 2-liter. So you still owe me about 24 more cans of these little tiny crap cans that you gave me. It's like, oh, well, but it's the same thing. It is the same thing, but it's not the same amount.
I think you may have had, I would like listeners, please send us an email, podcast@thestateofus.org. Has anybody else had as much trouble as the friendly redneck liberal with delivering?
Curbside service for food, right? Order my food. Pick it up. Figure, I did it on the computer, told him everything I wanted. Drove home.
Yeah.
I wanted a chicken sub, right? It was ham and cheese.
Well, we substituted the chicken.
Yeah, it was, but boy, we put it on the, it's online, curbside pickup, paid online, no contact, pickup, and it was great. And it was warm. At least I got that part one because I wanted a hot sub, but it was ham and cheese with none of the condiments on it. It was plain. And I wanted a chicken Philly sub, so it's supposed to have green peppers and onions and and it didn't have any of that on there.
Have you been back there?
Not since then.
Okay. What about the other place, the grocery?
The grocery? No, I'm now going in person.
Okay. But to the same store.
Well, we live in a small town. We don't have any other choices. We have no choices.
Do. Wally World.
Exactly. Right. But it goes with that other article that we're going to do. I like living in my small town, but these are the things that frustrate me about my small town is we don't have the options. It's like I can drive 30 miles and my produce and meat selection triples. And yet they try to brand themselves as a national chain. But and even at our Wally World, right? If you go to a Walmart in other places, you have a lot better selection. They gear down what they offer in these national chain stores when they come to the small towns. Well, our clientele's not as well off, so we give them the crap stuff and you have no selection. And that's how they make money. So I guess, right, you get by it because now I can go to Amazon and I can order just with all the people in New York City and LA. I can get my salsa in New York City just like everybody else. That's an old commercial there, by the way.
I think, and this is part of what we've learned as a result of the pandemic about.
I'm an equal shopper on Amazon, whereas my local Kroger and my local Walmart don't treat me the same.
Except they've learned enough, right? And this is where they have learned how many times they can frustrate you, how far they can push you, but still keep you as a customer. And I think that's something that most of us have probably all lived out at some point.
Well, that's true because I started going to Schwann's home delivery.
Yeah.
And paid more because they actually had stuff I wanted. and what I ordered came.
So that experience worked correctly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the delivery person's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They come to the door every 2 weeks, and even if we didn't order anything, say, hey, I got a deal on this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Service, baby. Service. That's all I want. I want some service. I'm an old boomer.
Give me those deals.
But I want service. She takes the time to get out of her truck, comes to the door, tells us what's going on, even though we didn't order anything. I'm getting personal service. And that's what the big chains are missing.
Uh-huh.
And that's what they don't understand is that some of us would pay more if we got the service.
Right.
But when the service stinks, I don't even want the deal.
Well, and that's part of the question, right, of what we're learning is what type of service do we want? Because that's what we're seeing, right, with the acceleration of curbside delivery is, a lot of people, they don't have to, if they can order in their sweatpants at home, right, and drive up to the store side, still in their sweatpants. I mean, a lot of people go into the store in their sweatpants, but, in this hypothetical situation where people don't wear sweatpants casually in person.
Where everybody doesn't get dressed up to go out in public.
Right.
That's another thing you guys have ruined.
You guys.
Used to when you went out in public, people put on their best airs to let you know that, they had some, somebody had brought them up right.
Oh.
And now it's like, we don't care what
all those artificial forms.
Yeah, we don't care what we look like.
And,
yeah,
right. So it's terrible that we've done away with all that.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we've got more to talk about, folks.
Standards.
Specifically, I mean, we've hit curbside pretty heavily here. I think that's one that's here to stay. No, not everybody's gonna, use it, and no. You're not going to use it all the time because sometimes you believe, right, that running in and grabbing it yourself will be faster and a better experience. And in some cases that may be true. So no, it's not 100% going to shift to that, but I do think it's vastly, especially in areas of the world where people didn't do that very much, like our small town, vastly accelerated the shift to curbside. And it's not just for things like groceries, right? It's for everything that you buy, because those places have learned it is cheaper for them to shop in the store and pick up the product and take it to you at your car than it is for them to load it on a truck or pay somebody to load it on a truck and bring it to your house. So if they can balance that desire for immediacy and convince you, right, that you are going to inherit the cost of the last mile instead of them, it's a win for them, and you at least believe that it's a win for you.
Good point.
And I think that's a huge part of why, right, they collect all that data, is to learn these things. So we've got more to talk about, including how Google, Facebook, and Amazon now collect more than half of all ad dollars spent in the United States. More than half. What are they going to do with that money, and how did they get to that position? There's more to talk about. Keep it here on The State of Us, and we'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Lance was talking about deals, right? Got to get those deals, those coupons, those sales. Got to save that money. Never mind the fact that they marked it up before they put it on sale. But this was an interesting...
That's why you have to look at prices every week so you know when you're actually getting one.
And what's your time worth? I'm going to pull Tim Ferriss here. He's the author of The 4-Hour Workweek for people that don't know. What's your time worth? How much time do you spend tracking all this?
Oh, okay, what is your time worth? What is it? Is it $10 an hour? $15
it's worth
an hour?
However much you can save.
$20 an hour? Right. I mean, I'm going to sit here in the chair and not do anything, or I can look at the computer and look at the prices, and then I know save. that okay, when they say that coffee is $5.99 and it's on sale because it's normally $7.99, but I've seen them sell it before for $3.99. I'm not buying it $5.99 because I'm waiting till it gets down to $3.99.
Who needs coffee?
And then I'll buy 2 of them, and then I don't need it. And then you start to figure out how often do they run their sales.
Yeah.
And so usually it's every other week or every third week. So now you buy in knowing that, okay, I need to get the chicken this week. Next week I get the hamburger. This is the week where I buy the fresh vegetables. And, eggs will go on sale around this time. and you learn to use the system to make more money.
So one of the projections that the article makes that we have linked today is that retailers are going to rely less on discounts. Bad news for Lance. Discounting became less prevalent during the pandemic as retailers reduced inventory and offered customers less variety of everything from can openers to towels. Some big retailers do not expect this to change. In fact,
it'll change.
They are using data to sell more items at full price by personalizing promotions rather than offering broad deals to everyone.
As soon as that stimulus money is gone, people start looking for deals again.
Macy's, for instance, is tailoring its promotions based on a customer's location and buying habits. Quote, "We're trying to minimize the unnecessary promotions and markdowns," Macy's finance chief told analysts in February. Other companies are following suit. Have you ever, Lance, from Kroger, because we're hating on Kroger today, even though, in fairness, folks, right, Lance and I are both regular shoppers at Kroger. So that's that whole, you can hate them, but you're going to use them kind of thing. Just like there's certain things in this town, if you want to get them and you don't want to drive 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to Walmart.
Yep.
Because you can't get them anywhere else.
Out of necessity, because they've driven everybody else out of business.
Yep. Or you could order from Amazon, who's now bigger than Walmart. So it's like, I mean, it's, the devil, right?
Exactly. You're right. Good points.
But Kroger, have you ever gotten in the mail, Lance, a little coupon booklet from Kroger's?
Because you bought those products in the last month. So now they give you a coupon.
Right.
And then they never run those items. Here's what I'll tell you, folks. They never run those items on sale during the life of the coupon.
Exactly.
But they will go on sale as soon as the coupon expires. Yeah. So really they're worthless. They're just to get you to buy the things that you, air quotes here, normally buy. And look, we'll give you a savings for them because we've jacked up the price. Yes. Yeah, I understand marketing. Okay. I've worked my whole life to beat the system. So I understand.
Have you beaten it?
I think so. I think most of the times I do. Yes.
And maybe that's their marketing scheme, is letting you think that you've beat them, right?
Well, that's true. But if they've done that, then jolly good for them.
Hats off to them, right?
That's right.
They fooled you and you didn't know it.
If they've given me service and made me feel good like I beat them at something, then they deserve to have me as a customer. That very rarely happens, by the way.
We've talked about the shift, right, in curbside and that kind of thing. And I guess it's an important note. The article points this out, that a store is no longer just a store, right? They're using these as warehouse locations.
Well, it all comes back to those consumer cards, right? Everybody has a card that, you're one of our great, patrons. And so
a Kroger Plus customer.
We're going to give you, but I'm surprised McDonald's hasn't gone into this business, because your local burrito shop has them, your gas station has them, your grocery store has them. And It's like
customer loyalty programs.
Exactly. And we'll give you points for purchases that you can then use to do something else, which everybody thinks is new. But when I was a kid, you save stamps, and I don't mean postage stamps. I'm talking about top quality stamps and top value stamps. The quality stamps were green and the top value stamps were yellow, and they gave you booklets. And it was my job when we came home from the grocery store or the gas station to lick the stamps and put them in the book. And then you could take your book in and turn them in for 8 glasses, or a free oil change. And then there was even a top value.
Free.
There was a top value store where you could turn your books in for jeans, shoes, a fan, a heater. You had to have 20 books and you got it for free,
For free.
10 books was a reduced price.
Sure.
But you earned the stamps by shopping, and you got stamps equivalent to the amount of money you spent. So when people think that these are new, it's the same concept, just using technology to give you those same quote values.
Many of the execution models are the same. The effectiveness continues to increase, and here's why. And this is this next component, right, that people need to understand. How is it that Google, Facebook, and Amazon consume, think about that, right? Half of all advertising dollars in the United States. They do it because they have the data, right? Which means that for the same money, they can offer better returns to companies than traditional forms of advertising media can. And if I'm an advertiser and what I'm trying to do is to get people to buy whatever, that's what I want, right? I mean, why would I spend my money on advertising with anybody else? If I can go and track, right, on Google, I'm going to give Google $1, right, to get somebody to buy my shirt that I made. And I can see that my dollar resulted in the purchase of a shirt on my website. And I know it, right? I mean, it's not, well, maybe it did. You know, we did the advertising and we saw an increase in sales, but we don't really know if they were for sure. No, I know the tracking data is there. I spent $1. Lance saw something because of that $1 I spent, and then he went on and he purchased that shirt that I was selling. I mean, that's what you want, right? If you're spending advertising dollars, you want to know how effective it is. And that's the huge thing that they offer. And that's part of why we're seeing some of those shifts like less sales, because it's this trickle down of they have access to the data. And what they've learned, right? What they are learning is that if people spend enough money and they create the right kind of advertisements, there doesn't have to be a sale to get people to buy things. They just have to show it to somebody.
Show it to the people who are looking for that item.
Right. I mean, and show it to them enough times.
That's and I'm being sarcastic here. The wonderful thing I like about Amazon is when you buy something or you look at something, then you get an email from them, you know, a couple hours later saying, people who looked at this or bought this also bought these items as well. You know, now they're just doing, they're upselling, which is, again, you know, McDonald's used to say, well, do you want fries with that? You know, cause you got your burger and you want fries with that? Oh yeah. Or you want an apple pie? Well, now they do that. It's like, okay, well, you bought these blankets. Look, people who bought these blankets also bought these pillow shams. So are you interested in some pillow shams? Look, they come in the same colors as the blankets you just bought. And oh, by the way, here is 5 gallons of paint that you can paint your room the same color. And so now here's the paint to repaint your room so they match your new pillowcases and your blankets. And it's like, that is like, to your point, I'm being very sarcastic when I say it's great, but that is a good look at marketing. You know, they're going to give you all the things that go with whatever you buy to say, look, now you can have the whole thing. And you're like, yeah, I do want all these things to match. And I don't care what the price is because making it look nice is more important to me than the price. And so now you pay for it at full price. To your point, that's the way I see it working out.
And the question then becomes, are we okay with this? Because you would say, well, I have a choice, right? I mean, I have a choice because we all love to think that we have a choice, right? I mean, that's what it's all built around, is this idea that we have free will, right? And we can make the choices. But to Lance's point, Kroger's upset him how many times? And he still shops there. Now, maybe he's changing the way he shops there, but he still goes there. He hates Walmart, but he still shows up to shop. And that's that whole, we have a choice, but do we really, you know? And even those of us that are trying to be very consciously aware of when we're being, you know, used by companies, often still end up being in some way controlled by them. And that's an increase in the consolidation of the market, right? And as our lovely big three, Google, Facebook, and Amazon, continue to further consolidate the ad market, they gain more info, which makes them even better at getting you to buy something. For example, I carry a backpack right now, a leather, you know, backpack, or part of it's leather, and it replaced the briefcase that I carried for years, which Lance probably remembers. And I have recently been getting advertisements for about the past month on Facebook for these premium leather, really nice briefcases, you know, and not like hard briefcases, but like soft shell briefcases, you know.
A satchel.
Sure. And I mean, they, you know, it's like, yeah, I would, that, you know, that looks like a nice, but I don't need that. My backpack is fine. You know, I don't need this. I've seen it no less than 6, 7, 8 times, you know, and I have been very close.
What's the magic number?
I've been on, it's usually around 7.
No, I mean, but they have one, right? I'm saying that facetiously again. Yeah. They've done the studies. They know that if they show it to you repeatedly, there is a magic number that if you click on it enough times, you will eventually buy it, right?
Exactly.
For you personally, though, it's like 7 or 8.
It's somewhere in there. And I know, I mean, I can feel that I'm close to it because I've seen it enough times. I want it, it's no longer now. It's not about, when I first saw it, it's like, that's interesting, and do a little looking into it. And how much does it cost? Cause I mean, I'll convince myself I don't need it, right? Because the price and, it's not worth it. But now it's getting to the point where no, I want it, And of course, because I've spent.
And then you'll validate the price and go ahead and spend it.
Sure, exactly.
The price didn't change.
Yeah.
But your mindset.
Nothing changed.
Yeah. Your mindset.
I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I
Still
saw
don't
the
need
price
it.
and
Right.
decided that it was more than I'd want to spend.
Right.
But now they've gotten it because they've showed it to me in enough different ways. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That I want it. So those first two things, which were the good part of your brain trying to stop you from doing things that, you don't need or don't want.
Because it kept coming on the screen, you eventually.
Well, now I want it.
Oh.
So now I can validate the price, right? And I can validate the fact that I don't need it, but I want it. So who cares if I need it or not, right? And then the perfectly good backpack I have instead will, go into the closet, right? And not get used. So there's that whole component of all this, right? That is, they're getting better at that. And that's why I say I'm sharing that experience. We think we have a choice, right? We all want to think that we have a choice, but do we? So do we do anything about all this? Or is it just, hey, capitalism at play, right? Who doesn't love that? Well, let's keep talking about it. Keep it here on The State of Us, and we'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Will we ever buy the same again? Well, it's what we've talked about today. I think that the way we shop has been changing, Lance, pretty heavily over the past 10 years or so, right? Everybody. And now the pandemic was the perfect opportunity. Google, Facebook, Amazon, they're all sitting there ready. They want more ad dollars. And the pandemic rolls in. And everybody needs, even your friendly redneck liberal needs to get stuff online, right? Perfect opportunity for them to go from 30 or 40% of the ad market to over 50% and stay there. Because the same thing that got people like Lance to use curbside is also the thing that got businesses who were not using or spending most of their ad dollars with these digital companies to make the shift.
To move to that direction.
Right? And they tested it and they tried it and they said, gee, we can get Justin to buy a briefcase he didn't even need. He wasn't even looking for a briefcase and we got him to buy one.
But you know what's causing this? And this is the phrase that as you were ending the last segment that just kept popping into my head. So I'm going to lead with this. And because you said capitalism, but it's the lack of competition. That's what's leading to this.
Oh.
And so
anti-capitalism.
Are we going to see, monopolies. I mean, that's why it's right. The article, the triopoly of, right? And there's a picture of the board game Monopoly. And so here it is. Is it time, ironically, for the government to step in and break these companies up so that we can get competition? I mean, we've seen it in the railroads. We've seen it in the phone industry, historically in the railroads, not in my lifetime, but in my lifetime with the phone industry, with Ma Bell. And we see what that has done. And competition has created better prices and better products. That's all your cell phones and everything else, people. Is it time for just a question out there, Justin, is it time for the government to step in and break up some of these huge monopolies so that we get better competition, so that we get better service?
It's this catch-22 of capitalism, right? The goal of capitalism is to become, as a company, right, is to become the best, right? To have the most customers, to make the most money. That's what it's about, right? To beat the competition. But you get into this weird position of, for example, I just saw the article the other day and we may do a show on this. It's something like 80% of teenagers, if they have a phone, it's an iPhone. Apple, right? 80%. And I think it might be a little higher than that.
Well, we know our producer used Apples in school. And so then when it was time for him to go to college, he bought Apple products, even though he used he used other things here at the studio. He goes, well, but I'm used to this. And so he bought Apple everything to take to college because they got into the school system, and that's what he grew up with.
And I guess my point is, it's kind of this.
Hello, Bradley. How you doing, by the way?
Right. Yeah. He's our producer, folks, for you that don't know. So he's listening to all this.
But you two went back and forth because
Sure.
you're like, look at this stuff. This stuff does just the same, is better than what you're buying, and it's cheaper. Yeah, well, I'm still going to buy Apple because that's what I'm used to. Was his answer.
Sure. And I guess my point here is, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. I just listed the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th most valuable companies. Facebook, the 8th most valuable company in the world, right? They've won, right? I mean, they are a product, and this is the catch-22 that I'm talking about, of capitalism, right? They came up with an idea that they could sell to the masses, and basically that entire list that I just mentioned, right? Every one of those companies, they're the epitome of the American dream of capitalism, right? Some nobody, many of those owners who dropped out of college or didn't go in the first place, started a little company in their garage they didn't have generational wealth. They didn't have any of this, right? They lived in some little middle income, lower middle income, whatever, right? And they start a company. And here they are sitting in the top 10 most valuable organizations in the entire world. And now, and you could see how there's some irony here to this, right? So now we need to knock them down a peg because they've got too much control. They were too successful.
There's the conundrum, right?
Right.
It's like, you're going to pay the price for being too successful.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like, and I'm sensitive to this, folks, because Lance and I have railed against communism, right? And socialism and why they're not good things. But then at the same time, it is convenient that when we arrive at, well, they're controlling what we buy and they've figured out how to make all this money. And it's like, but basically they played by the rules, didn't they?
But I will counter with you, and just very quickly, because I'm going to go back to, you can have the floor again. But very quickly, isn't the lack of competition the death knell of capitalism?
Which is the irony of, in order to win, you have to beat the competition. But then if you beat the competition bad enough, now we don't like it anymore.
No, it's not that we don't like it. It stops capitalism from working. Because if there's no competition,
right,
there's nothing to drive you to make a better product or to give me a better price.
Sure.
And so I ask again, is the death knell of capitalism the lack of that of the ability of that success of becoming the top dog? So in order to keep capitalism, to still rail against, the socialism and communism, is to say we need to create the competition.
When you have, right, $1 trillion in market value, it doesn't matter how great the competition's product is, because you can do one of two things. You can either silence them, right, by putting your own money into research and developing the same product, or you can do what most of these folks do and just buy them, right? You can't beat them, join them,
Morgan bought out Carnegie, and Morgan and Rockefeller went back and forth, both in New York, controlling everything, to where, historically, in the Depression in the 1890s, JP Morgan gave the U.S. government the gold that was necessary to keep the government economy afloat, because he was more valuable and had more gold than the entire U.S. economy. And then we said, and then 10 years later, the next decade, we said, we're going to pass the Sherman Antitrust Act because these monopolies are not good. They saved our butt.
Right.
But they're not good for the overall growth.
We got to get rid of them.
Of the country. Right.
The 2nd and 3rd most valuable companies in the world, Apple and Microsoft, are not the ones right now that we're talking about breaking up, right? It's Amazon, Google, Facebook. Those are the ones that we're worried about. So how have Apple and Microsoft so far avoided this? Right now, Microsoft, obviously, they had their stint with, back in the late 90s, Bill Gates, in one of his masterful moves, said, well, we'll show you how much we believe in competition. We'll give $100 million to Apple. So, I mean, there is that side. We always talk about all the evil, right, of capitalism, or when the government has to step in to force competition, right? But at the same time, what's the result of that? Well, you have Apple, a massive company that you can absolutely give credit to, pushing forward all manner of innovations that probably still would have happened, but would they have happened as soon or as fast? Probably not. The change in the smartphone, the rise of the tablet, right? These are things that we can give a lot of credit, the digital music industry, to Apple for, or at least a large piece of the pie. So I think that's part of what we have to look at when we talk about how is shopping changing? Well, shopping changes based on how much competition we allow there to be. And if we allow Amazon and Google and Facebook to control the ad industry without much competition, they'll gain more and more data on us, and the idea of choice and competition will be gone. Because it won't be about whether or not I want to buy the thing they're showing me. I'll just buy it. And they'll know I'm going to buy it the minute they show it to me, and they'll know how far they can stretch my budget, and they'll know all this if they don't already, right? I mean, I think we all want to think that they don't, but they're getting very close, they're getting very close, because even people like me who are recognizing it, even those of you listening, that it's happening, right? I'm aware, and yet I still do it. So, and I'm not even somebody that's a heavy social media user. So you could imagine how if your screen time's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on these platforms, they're not only going to control who your friends are, what your politics are, they're going to control what you buy and how much money you spend. And so will any of your life be yours? Hopefully we've answered the question here. Hopefully we've answered the question, or it's a self-explanatory answer, Lance. But if we didn't, that's why we're having these conversations, right? Is you could counter us.
That's exactly right. So, and we didn't tell you that, but, give us your thoughts, share your thoughts at podcast@thestateofus.org, podcast@thestateofus.org. Tell us what you think about this mind control that's going on. Is it a good thing? Are we benefiting from it? Or is it something we need to take a look at? And there, I just gave you the short version after 35 minutes of listening to us go back and forth. Is this mind control good for us? But our mission here at True Chat is to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. And we've done that again. And you can tell Justin and I, don't always agree, but at the same time, there are some questions that we ask that we don't always have the answer to. So we thank you for being a part of the conversation. And if you're talking to your friends and family and they say, well, that sounds interesting, well, tell them they can find our show on Spotify, Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and everywhere podcasts are found.
The State of Us is both a syndicated radio program and a podcast. You can get new episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays by 4 a.m. Eastern time for the podcast. Catch the radio show on the weekends in select talk markets around the country. And again, send us your thoughts. Email podcast@thestateofus.org. For The State of Us on True Chat in Urbana, Ohio, I'm Justin T. Weller.
I'm Lance Jackson.
Special thanks to our producer and Apple fanboy Bradley Butch. And thank you all, our audience, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Be the change. Be sure to check out our website, thestateofus.org, for books, articles, and all the ways to tune in. thestateofus.org.